we don't grow for the sake of growth. I've learned a long time ago, if you chase the money, things don't always work out for you in the best way. And so if you focus on hiring the right people, you make money.
The Medical Alley podcast is brought to you by MentorMate. MentorMate empowers healthcare clients to deliver on their mission and transform the human experience through technology. For over 20 years, clients have trusted MentorMate to guide their vision, design innovative products, and build secure solutions while understanding the specific nuances of their industry. MentorMate's global team in the U.S., Eastern Europe, and Latin America helps clients in all sectors of healthcare transform their organizations, from Fortune 500 pharmaceutical companies and commercial payers to hospital systems, medical device manufacturers, and beyond. Learn more at mentormate.com/healthcare. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Medical Alley podcast. My name is Tyler Mason, and I'm excited for today's conversation. We have two guests here who flew in for our annual dinner here at US Bank Stadium, one from Boston, one from Atlanta. It is Bill Gallagher and Erin Gregory of SEI. We'll have them introduce themselves in just a second, but both of you, welcome to Medical Alley. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. We appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. Why don't we maybe just let you both introduce yourselves? I guess, Bill, start with you. Tell people who you are, and then Erin, if you want to do the same.
Yeah. Sure. I'm Bill Gallagher. I'm the CEO for SEI. We're a management and technology consulting firm.
And Erin?
And I'm Erin Gregory. I'm the national practice lead for our life sciences clients.
Awesome. Well, I've gotten to meet both of you and learn a little bit about SEI. You are sponsoring our annual dinner, which is one reason you're in town here. But for folks who are listening, maybe tell a little bit about what SEI is and what makes SEI different.
I think it all started with a guy named Dan Pierce in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was a general manager and sales manager for professional services firms back in the 80s and early 90s, and he had become disenchanted with the state of how professional services firms were run, mainly that there was no loyalty from the consultants to the firm and vice versa.
Sure.
And so he had issues with putting his name out there to sell something and then finding that, his A team that he thought he was going to have to work a project had taken the next best offer from a competitor.
Yeah.
And so he spent a couple of years thinking through really how he would either completely get out of professional services or build his own that he felt like he could be proud of and would be willing to stake his reputation on. And so he came up with what we have now is our model at SEI, which is an employee ownership model, and founded in 1992. So been around for 32 years at this point, and it's been a very resilient model, and it's stood the test of time so far.
Yeah. Erin, anything you want to add just about what kind of makes SEI different?
Yeah. I mean, I think naturally the employee ownership model kind of brings together a different group of people. And what's been really valuable for us is, as owners, we also think about the business, not just as delivery as consultants, but, we're all here to build the business, whether that's through recruiting or business development. And we really take our commitment to it very seriously.
Yeah. And
there's several other elements, I think, that make SEI different, not just that ownership model, but we also have a flat hierarchy. We hire seasoned professionals. So on average, our consultants have around 15 years of experience. And bringing all that together, you just have a totally different sense of accountability, whether that's to each other and our team and to our clients as well. Every consultant who's out interfacing with our clients is also an owner of the company. And so they're treating that engagement that way, right? This is their business. And so that's just really kind of a core foundational element that makes SEI different. And I know we all would also just say that the people continue to be a really strong element of why we love SEI. I've been with the company for 9 years. Bill's been with us for
19 years. Yeah. 19 years, June 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Long time. We have, very low turnover, people with long tenures here. And that just really kind of all speaks to the model that Dan created. And has stood the test of time.
Yeah, having good people is important. Now, Bill, so I think you're going to say something.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that when Dan was trying to figure out like what would he do to be different from a professional services perspective, he looked at what he had issues with. Like I said, the lack of loyalty, the commitment, even collaborative nature of professional services didn't exist. I came from big consulting, and they've got vast amounts of artifacts to collaborate on, but because of the competition that's associated with it, they don't naturally collaborate. Because of the flat model that Erin was talking about, there is no barrier to collaboration. There's no competition amongst our consultants. Everybody has the same opportunity to become an owner, to get the same promotions. And so for that reason, we're highly collaborative. And he started really with 3 C's, and it was consistency, commitment, and collaboration. He wrote that down on a piece of paper when he was initially thinking about the model. And, the consistency, making sure that there's no B team, it's always an A team. So hiring seasoned professionals. The commitment goes back to the loyalty piece that I talked about earlier. Yeah. And he solved that by really taking a look at it and saying, hey, if I don't hold on to the ownership, even majority ownership of this company, and I give it to the consultants, they're going to naturally have a vested interest in the success of the company, and therefore a vested interest in the success of the clients. And so that has really been a big differentiator. And look, I started here as a consultant in 2005, and I was a data and analytics consultant, and then I managed an office. I've lived this for the last 19 years, and I can honestly say I have not seen a model like that before.
So. Very cool. And that employee-owned aspect of it is something that stood out to me, Erin, when you were here previously. We talked. Anything else just about the benefits of having the company owned by its employees that kind of, that you've witnessed, or maybe that from either a business standpoint or just an employee standpoint?
I mean, I can speak to it sort of from the perspective of a consultant and now in my current role as a practice lead. But there's a few elements of employee ownership that we've taken into our culture and really treated as foundational. One of those is that we actually really leverage the Patrick Lencioni book, The Ideal Team Player. There's a concept there of humble, hungry, and smart. And, when you're thinking about an ownership model, you're not just hiring people that you might want to work with. You're hiring people you want to run a business with.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the way that you look at what they bring to the table is different. So we look for hunger, which is, that natural drive to continue to improve every day. Obviously we all have ups and downs in life, and that can vary. And right. SEI's model accounts for that as well. But there's a certain element of hunger that we're looking for in all of our consultants. You want to have that entrepreneurial drive. Yeah. There's humble, right? So there's a lot of humility. We're not looking for people who want to climb a ladder. We're not necessarily looking for people who need to, sort of be in the center of the room. We're looking for people who always want to learn. They know how to ask for help. They want to engage meaningfully in our collaborative model. And the smart element is not just book smart, but yes, of course, we have really smart, capable consultants, but it's also that emotional smartness, intelligence. Sure, thank you. That really enables our consultants to navigate our client landscapes, right? So we're coming in as true, partners to our clients. They have their own political elements they have to navigate. Yeah. And we have a team of people that are also equally capable of navigating that with them. So, there's kind of that foundational, humble, hungry, and smart element that we look for. But I also think the way that it's structured, you just are really connected to your peers. And there's that lack of competition in the sense that we all have equal opportunities. We're not fighting for a set number of promotions. Everyone has the opportunity to be promoted as you demonstrate your commitment to the organization and your ability to deliver value for our clients. And so that means rising tides lift all boats, right? We've heard it before, but how often do you actually see it play out in an organization and feel that it can actually be lived every day? Right. That's what the employee ownership kind of element does for our team is what's good for, one of us is good for all of us and vice versa. Yeah.
It just seems like it builds probably a good company culture too, which I think, in recent years, employees and people are really searching for too. So I think that's certainly a benefit as well, I would imagine.
It is still the number one thing. And there's, I kind of hate using the phrase secret sauce, right? Everybody uses it. even our clients ask us, how do you hire at SEI?
Interesting.
They're interested to learn how we have managed to continue to build such a truly a unique workforce, honestly. And it comes back to holding true to our core values of what are those elements we're looking for in our consultants and as co-owners of a business. And when you really keep those at the forefront, it makes a big difference.
And I do think we hired a company called Matchstick. They're a brand house out of Atlanta to do a brand analysis for us. And so they went out and they asked 40 of our clients, why do they buy from us? What makes us different? Yeah. And the resounding words that came out of their mouth was absolute accountability. And I think without that ownership model, you would lack that. It might still be there at some level, but it's really there on steroids with us because everybody's got a vested interest in the ownership of the firm. The success of the firm is dependent on the success of the clients, both individuals and as a company. And so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know one of the reasons SEI is becoming involved with Medical Alley, both as a member of Medical Alley and as a sponsor of the annual dinner, as I mentioned, is because healthcare and life sciences is, from what I understand, the number one industry that you serve. Can you maybe share a little bit about what some of the most common areas within healthcare are that SEI works with?
Yeah. And it's definitely come about, organically, which is really exciting for us to realize now that this is such a primary industry for us. When we think about the work we do in healthcare and life sciences, there's sort of the healthcare realm where we're thinking about, hospital systems, sort of the providers of the world. We work with payers as well as pharmacy. So, our work really spans quite a wide variety, but I'll try to give a couple examples and keep it relatively tight. But, for major hospital systems, I'd say there's really two major things that we've engaged in. One is helping with technology integration. So, as hospitals merge, community hospitals become part of bigger major systems. Right. Those organizations have a lot of different technology solutions that they need to bring together. And there's really no room for error when it comes to the consistency of how that cutover goes when you're going to actually kind of flip the switch and put these new systems in place. So that's become a really key area for us, is knowing how to help these organizations navigate the assessment of their portfolio, but also how do you really manage to make sure that the testing of the systems is done comprehensively, always still with the patient in mind, and making sure that everything comes together kind of in that last mile to make sure that goes well. And then we do a lot of work with data and analytics, supporting provider practices. When you think about the amount of data, let's say, that's just moving around between what the physicians are doing, what the nurses are doing, what the patients are experiencing, the drugs or the devices that they're using, all of the data related to what kinds of procedures are being recorded.
And outcomes,
The outcomes for the patient, all of it is captured. And then it's such a huge mountain of data. Yeah. It can be really overwhelming of what to do with it. So our teams, come in and they can look at things from multiple lenses. Operationally, how do you want to use this data to help you run your hospital more effectively? But also those, patient outcomes that we're talking about, how do we help shape those into insights and learning and, contribute back to the ultimate goal of, our healthcare system?
Yeah.
With insurance providers, we do a lot of, again, I'll kind of put it in that transformation space, whether it's transforming a care management organization, implementing a new claims adjudication system, overhauling their financials. That's a space that, we're very well integrated in. I'll also mention that we do a lot of cybersecurity work. We can talk a little bit about more, about that later on as well. But obviously there have been, a lot of conversations lately around breaches. And, I'm glad to say that we do work with our organizations to help them get out ahead of that. But we've also, seen what a remediation effort looks like and had to partake in that as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of learning there. If I kind of jump over to the life sciences space and I look at the pharmaceutical organizations, biotech, medical devices, we do work across the entire life cycle. So, any asset that's coming from ideation through to that commercialization stage. We've had the great fortune of helping organizations that are preclinical and supporting their R&D organizations, helping them optimize and be more efficient in actually moving through the phases of their clinical trials, making sure that they are collecting all of the data that they need to most effectively, but also helping them run their programs from a perspective of efficiency. And then we've kind of transitioned into the medical space. We work with medical affairs organizations. There's often a pendulum swing between really regionalized functions and then global functions, bringing them together, separating them apart, thinking about how that impacts the overall organization, how they're looking at their global footprint. So that's always really exciting, just that international view and working with the global elements of those orgs. We do work in quality management systems. We do work in supply chain, which is, where we get to apply a lot of our core capabilities around project and program management, also data and analytics, business process optimization, right? A lot of those things that you can come to expect from a consulting firm. But because we're kind of tackling all of this, leveraging the depth of experience of our consultants, most of the time we're coming at these problems that our clients are facing from a place of having actually lived it before, not from, learning on the job with our clients. Yeah. So it's a broad span. I could go on because this is obviously my passion space, and where I spend all of my time. So we can. Someday someone will want me to talk even more about it, and that'll be great. But we do a ton of great work across the entire spectrum.
Absolutely, yeah. Bill, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think the only thing I can add to that is that it's been a big evolution for us over the last even 19 years that I've been here, how we've adjusted to the marketplace in the local markets, but also nationally. As Erin said, our foray into healthcare has been really organic. And, we started with a data analytics project back a long, long time ago, and it just built off of that and got ourselves into more and more healthcare related projects. And I think you mentioned that is our largest source of revenue right now is healthcare and life sciences. But it's been an interesting path to watch how we've become more sophisticated in the offerings that we have and how we even provide training for our consultants. And the projects that we do are really, in a lot of cases, cutting edge for healthcare.
Today's episode is brought to you by CSA Group, a global leader in product testing and certification. Accredited as a nationally recognized testing laboratory by the International Accreditation Service, CSA Group understands the importance of obtaining product certification for medical equipment, helping you access markets worldwide and establish credibility on a global scale. Having direct access to their industry experts, CSA Group can guide you through the certification process and help you prepare for product certification. With over 100 years of expertise, CSA Group is your trusted partner in healthcare testing and certification. Visit csagroup.org/healthcare to learn more. That's csagroup.org/healthcare. Well, just based on how involved you are in this space, it seems like you're pretty well on top of the kind of the pulse of healthcare and life sciences and the trends. I know you published an article about some of the top healthcare trends to keep an eye on in 2024. And I know we're already probably halfway through the year almost, but one of those was the popular topic of AI and machine learning, which seems to be everywhere. Everyone's talking about it these days. But I guess from your experience, how have you seen healthcare clients embracing AI, and maybe what opportunities do you think exist to integrate AI into healthcare and life sciences?
Yeah, well, you don't really have a voice in the marketplace right now if you're not talking about AI.
Seems like a requirement. Right?
It is a requirement. But, one of the things we also really try to anchor our clients in is that Gen AI is absolutely a new buzzword, and it is a new trend. Mm-hmm. But large language modeling, machine learning, artificial intelligence, those concepts have actually been around a really long time.
Right, which I think people forget.
People forget. Yeah. And our consultants have been doing that work actually for a really long time. And so as much as it is, a new hot topic that's really exciting to talk about, ultimately, when we get into these conversations, people are excited to try and take advantage of this, this new hot thing. Yeah. And what we really have to look at is whether or not they are foundationally sound in order to actually take advantage of the newer versions of Gen AI that are coming together. So as much as, any conversation might start about AI, right, we have a lot of conversations around data governance, right? Yeah. How secure is your data? How, have you really addressed all of your data privacy concerns? If we were to train an AI model, what data would we use to train it? Is it your internal proprietary data? In which case we have to think about that differently.
Right.
Or are you also looking for something that's, open to the world, and you're looking for ways to implement it operationally so that your team can use something like, a co-pilot tool just to help you do your everyday job.
Right.
And so there's sort of this foundation, and it's really important for us to think about that. I think the other element, as we have been looking at AI, is how forward thinking and how sort of risk aware are organizations when they think about it. Do you want to be bleeding edge and kind of really push? Or are they really looking to take advantage of the proven tools that are already available and on the market, in which case, we can also help implement those. So taking all of that in, right, an example of how we've implemented some AI solutions, let's say in the healthcare space. We've worked with a major cancer center, a national organization. Many of us have called in to a call center, and you hear this call may be recorded for quality assurance.
Right. Everyone knows that. Yep.
Everybody knows that. Now, kind of put yourself in the position of being a patient, and this is a cancer center. So you're calling in. Usually what it means in a call center like that is that about 10% or so of the calls are actually listened in by a human supervisor. And there's a feedback loop to try to get, feedback to the agent that you had spoken with. And that can take about a month. The supervisor's doing all their calls, they're doing their write-ups before they finally maybe sit down with that agent. So, this is more of sort of one of those internal operational solutions that we helped implement. Was now we can use AI to evaluate 100% of the calls. And the AI that we've been able to implement looks for, what was the reason for the call? What was the sentiment? How empathetic was the service agent during that call? They can look at how was the ease of transition from one agent to another if that transition had to be made. And now we can provide that feedback to agents within 1 day instead of 1 month. That makes a tangible difference for the patient experience by, looking at something that you may not have thought of as, hey, this is bleeding edge healthcare AI. But you know what it is? It's these are your front lines, right? Your service agents that are taking these phone calls are interacting with patients who are in a vulnerable position in their lives, and being able to actually improve the quality of those interactions is a huge step forward for that organization.
Experience,
Exactly. And, on the life sciences side, we've worked with an international pharma organization. Speed is the name of the game in terms of getting your products to market. And they wanted to take a look at whether or not they could shorten the duration of the review cycle with the FDA once they made a submission. So we took their internal previous submissions, trained an AI model on those, looked at the questions they'd received before from the FDA, and created a system where they can now take a look at the submissions they're creating and kind of bump it up against that model to say whether or not there are things they can sort of quote unquote fix in advance, right? Hey, this is a learning from a previous submission. It's hard to make sure those always get incorporated. A computer can help you do that. AI can help you do that. So their submissions are getting cleaner. They're anticipating, right? We'll see it prove out that this will actually shorten the amount of time their submission spends in review, which ultimately, increases the pace in which they can get their product to market. So there's a variety of different ways we're actually seeing our clients take advantage of this in the work that we're doing. And, to be honest, it's really exciting whether you end up in that kind of more operational space or whether you're really looking at it from like that very targeted industry specific lens.
A lot of great stuff there. And one of the things you mentioned, I think, is something that we hear a lot is maybe the concern of data with regards to AI and, proprietary information, whether that's patient information or otherwise. Is that, do you see that coming along as companies are maybe figuring out how to go about utilizing these tools, but still maintaining that security piece?
In all highly regulated industries, we're seeing that across the board. Healthcare isn't the only highly regulated industry that we operate in. And so, we're seeing that everywhere.
Yeah. The regulators are talking about it. We have a national practice lead for cybersecurity, for privacy, security, and risk as well. And she's attending the conferences where the regulators themselves are actually coming to talk with the leaders in that space. And she's participating in those conversations because the regulators are trying to figure out exactly what that kind of guardrail is going to look like. Everything is moving so fast.
Right. Hard to stay ahead of it.
It's really hard to stay ahead of it. And cybersecurity is a great example of that.
And honestly, like AI is another, we actually have a counterpart to Erin who, Antonio Manueco, he's our our practice lead for our AI practice. And we did that intentionally because we saw such a need for it in all industries. And he's coupled with, he's paired with Erin for healthcare and life sciences. He works with our information security lead as well, and to make sure that we've got a cohesive offering for our clients and we're covering all the bases and sort of really looking out over the horizon to see what's coming next and what's going to be important to our clients.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I was curious if there's other healthcare trends, aside from AI and that sort of thing that you is a big focus maybe for the work you're doing so far in 2024 or that you anticipate will be big moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, we're certainly seeing a lot of work right now in what I would call the data governance, so data privacy, right?
Yeah.
For any of these cool new solutions to be usable, you have to have your data house in order, right? So we're doing a lot of projects around that right now, and we've also invested in having national practice leads for our data and analytics space as well. They kind of all build, right? They build on each other. You need the data and element, and you need the security element, and then you can kind of bolt AI onto the top, right? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to think about this holistically. Any client that just wants one or the other, we're at least going to make sure that all those pieces, right, are ultimately going to bind together to make sure that it's a cohesive solution, like Bill said. But in addition to that, there's a lot of really great conversation about patient engagement and patient advocacy right now. We have more and more opportunities to directly engage with patients. So whether that's about, different treatment solutions, whether that's about different pharmaceutical options that they may have, organizations are really continuing to put all of this data to use and trying to understand how to be right where the patient needs you to be at the right point in their journey. How do you make the right offering at the right moment, engaging both with the healthcare providers as well as the patients? So, we're seeing a trend, I would say, in more and more projects in that space, taking a look at how do we also reduce the time from a patient identifying a symptom to getting a diagnosis to then ultimately having, some sort of a solution or treatment.
Yeah.
Different diseases that can look very different, but we have a lot of data, collectively. And if we use that the right way, we can make a big difference. And the other thing I would say is the regulatory landscape. We're doing a fair amount of work in helping our organization stay on top of the regulatory changes that are happening internationally.
Sure.
There's harmonization efforts globally.
Doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work that way, right?
Exactly.
Like everybody's working toward it. I think there's absolutely good momentum there. But also, there's 140 different countries that are issuing different small, sometimes adjustments to their regulations that are applying both to pharmaceuticals and to medical devices. And for organizations that might already have devices and drugs in place in those countries, they're having to constantly make updates to their submissions and their licensing. Yeah. And so we have found that this is a space where a lot of organizations, have maybe come across these challenges in that more organic kind of way. They weren't necessarily thinking about it as a strategic advantage to be able to have that data and that information readily available to be out in front of those issues.
Right.
And so we're, hearing more about that and engaging with our clients in that space as well, trying to make sure that we always have awareness of what the right tools are that they can utilize, and also that we're bringing the right thought leadership to them, and so that they're thinking about these things before they run into any kind of issue.
Yeah. It seems like you guys are staying pretty well on top of it from all different angles, which is awesome to hear. Bill, I want to kind of ask you just kind of bigger picture question for you. You've been the CEO of SEI now for almost a decade. I know you've been with the company for maybe twice that long. What are you most proud about with the organization and what you've been able to accomplish in that time?
I'm most proud about the fact that we've been able to adhere our cultural norms and our value proposition to our employees, that of being a very familial, people first culture, while we still have grown. We don't grow for the sake of growth. I've learned a long time ago, if you chase the money, things don't always work out for you in the best way. And so if you focus on hiring the right people, you make money, right? So very, very dedicated to that people first mentality. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that, we went 10 years ago, I think we were at 180 consultants, and now we're, 700 and
wow. 13 locations,
13
right?
locations. Yep. That's correct. So I think we were at 5 or 6 locations then, and doubled that. So I'm just very proud of the fact that we've been able to do that. And I think if you ask our employees, even in our larger offices, they still feel that it's a very family type atmosphere and culture. Yeah. So that's important to us.
Awesome.
And something that, Bill is certainly too humble to say. His leadership style has meant a lot to the organization. In fact, he's even recently been part of a book called Empathetic Leadership, also authored by Christopher Voss. Some people may know from, his work in negotiation, but Bill was a part of that book because his leadership approach and style and really leading with empathy is a core part of how SEI has continued to grow, and we keep that familial element, right? We're talking about a lot of really cool, hard, challenging work, and we're making sure that everybody who's a part of SEI has a true meaning of work-life balance. Yeah. And so that's not an easy thing to do and to carry forward for the past 10 years. So I definitely want to acknowledge Bill for that as well.
Empathetic Leadership was the book you said?
Yeah.
People should check it out then. Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll start a link to it.
And the chapter that I wrote was really about empathy as it relates to corporate culture.
Sure. Awesome.
So, yeah, that was it was exciting to do, and very honored to be able to be attached to an author like Christopher Voss. So
yeah, that's very cool. Well, yeah, people listening, go check it out, whether you're a leader yourself or just, I'm sure there's probably plenty of good things that everybody can take from that.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, last one I wanted to ask the both of you, as we mentioned off the top here, you're both in town for our annual dinner at US Bank Stadium. You guys are sponsors of the event. You're going to be up on the big screen in a video there. Erin, you were...
I know, right?
Bill's a little nervous now already thinking about it. But Erin, you and your colleague Sarah were in town a month or two ago for another event of ours, the Women in Health Leadership. I just would like to hear, kind of from your perspective, why becoming part of this Medical Alley community was so important for SEI.
Yeah, and even before Sarah and I were here, a group of consultants actually came to an Alley chat as well.
Oh, sure.
And they had such a great experience. First of all, it was the welcoming nature of the community here. There was also something incredibly refreshing about the perspective that everyone is here to network. And I don't mean that from the sense of everybody's walking around trying to sell each other, right?
But business cards, yeah.
Exactly. It was really approached from the get-go as building a community.
Yeah.
So it wasn't awkward to walk up to anyone and introduce yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Some networking can feel very inorganic, and this felt very natural. And so, our team that first engaged kind of came back and expressed that, and that sounds like how SEI operates. So then we came to the women's breakfast and, completely solidified that is who this community is. So as we've continued to look for ways to just, further engage with the healthcare and life sciences community, given that it's such a big part of our book of business, mm-hmm. It's been really great to find an organization where we feel like everybody who's a member, is aligned with how we think about business. Yeah. We want to do business with other people who are in it for the right reasons. Right. And what better way to find out who those organizations are and how we can help than by having, really natural interpersonal connections.
Yeah.
One of our consultants out of DC came across Medical Alley and we talked in great length of what your mission was here and what your core values were. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing for me that resonated was how closely aligned your core values are with ours. So your core values, I believe, are accountability, trust, leadership, and gratitude, which really spoke to us. Ours are excellence, participation, integrity, and collaboration. And I felt like those were very closely aligned. And that really resonated with me.
Awesome. Well, you have 1,000 people to network with tomorrow at US Bank Stadium for the annual dinner. And obviously, like I said, you guys will be up on the big screen. So we're really appreciative of the support from SEI and enjoy getting to know you so far as we work on this partnership together. But really glad that you were able to make it into the studio today. And Erin and Bill, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just can't say enough about, the team here at Medical Alley as well. Obviously, the community takes their approach from you all, right? You are the leaders of how this community operates, and we've seen nothing but the same from the team here. So also just really want to thank you for, the warm welcome that we've had from the Medical Alley team, and it's been really great.
Yeah, it's been exceptional.
So I appreciate that. Yeah, well, thank you. And thank you to everybody for listening to this episode of the Medical Alley podcast with Bill Gallagher and Erin Gregory of SEI. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe to the Medical Alley podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at medicalalleypodcast.org. Until next time, hope everyone has a great day.